أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا. O you who have believed, protect yourselves and your families from the fire. Surah Al-Tahrim, verse 6. When we look at the different ways of Imam Hussein's wisdom for today's life, one way that we look at Imam Hussein is by himself, by his perfection and kamal. Another way, when we look at Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we see that the event of Karbala is different in this matter, is that usually when battles happen, individuals do not bring their family members to battles. And this is one of the letters that Imam Hussein alayhi salam received, and many people were trying to ask him not to go towards Kufa, but Imam Hussein alayhi salam mentioned that this is what Allah wants. And then they asked, then why are you taking your family? And Imam Hussein alayhi salam mentioned that Allah wants to see them be captives. It's one of the letters of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So you see that one of the great lessons of Karbala is that Imam Hussein alayhi salam himself was perfect, and also he had a distinguished and amazing family. When you look at all the roles, from the ladies and the mothers of Karbala to the young ones, to the, you can even say, individuals like, Qasim ibn al-Hasan alayhi salam, Abdullah ibn Hassan, Ali Akbar, that tonight we'll mention. Some have calculated and considered, or Lady Ruqayya, Lady Sakina, Lady Sukaina, some have calculated around like 20 youth, 20 young people, children. Imam Baqir alayhi salam was present. 20 children in this caravan of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And we see that not only was Imam Hussein alayhi salam the best of his time, but his family, his children were the best. So we must take note and learn from the lessons of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, especially at this important era that we live in, that not only in the US or in the West, everywhere right now it is very difficult to raise successful and good children. It's not something easy. Some say, well, maybe if I move to a Muslim country, move to a Shia majority country, it's going to be easy. Even there is not going to be easy. This is a skill that parents need to have. And those of you who are not married yet, these are lessons that you can learn, or when you have siblings and brothers and sisters, these are skills that you can have in how to relate with one another, speak with one another with respect, how to communicate, and how to motivate one another. These are lessons that all of us need to have. Many times parents, they want their children to live a life that they never fulfilled. And this is one big problem, because they try to make that child become who they never became themselves. But this is the first error that you see, is that children will most likely be who you are, not necessarily who you want to be or who you want it to be. It's very different when I say, go, for example, go and become the best at this and your academy and in studying and sports and masjid and all this. But in reality, then you see the parent has not achieved that. It's much easier if you yourself achieve something great and you tell your child and you show him the way. You say, look, come here, I will show you the way. I will help you out. Compared to when you command that child to go to somewhere yourself you never went to. So look at the life of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam and the children of Imam Hussein. They were already perfect. They were already reaching Kamal before Ashura. Ashura was an event that those children, those young members of Imam Hussein's family, they showed themselves to the world. One of them that tonight we'll mention is Ali Akbar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who when it came to khalq and khulq and the way he spoke was ashbahun nas, was the most complete and most similar to Rasulullah than his time period. And when they wanted to look at Rasulullah, imagine how Rasulullah would behave and act, they would look at Ali Akbar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Then Ali Akbar becomes shaheed, and then he fights very brave as the Bani Hashim would fight. And then you see the status and what he did in Karbala. But before that, he was the most similar to Rasulullah in terms of speech and action. So therefore you see that is one important note for us, is that before these events happen, before these tests of Allah happen, because every human being will be tested. That child that you're raising one day will be tested with financial matters, emotional matters, different problems they'll face. You see, this great lesson that Imam Hussein provides us is to train that child before those calamities and tests and trials and tribulations take place, so that child can be ready. And do you say that Ali Akbar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam was ready? Yes, because he was most complete, he was most similar to Rasulullah. Or look how Imam Hassan alayhi salam raised Qasim ibn al-Hassan, and how Imam Hussein alayhi salam also raised him. You see, the ma'rifat and understanding of when you work with your child and you ask him, how do you see death? And he mentions, ahla min al-asal. It is sweeter than honey. That is an extraordinary child. That is extraordinary amount of ma'rifat. Somebody wanting to go to the battlefield, being trained without armor, with sandals, because these things would not fit children. So this is the family that Imam Hussein alayhi salam raised. Or you see the example of Lady Ruqayyah, one who loved father so much. How did Imam Hussein alayhi salam act with this 3 or 4-year-old? That she was completely devastated. She was so attached to Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam that when she was in Sham, as some of the historians say, she was asking to see her father again. Asking to see her father. And some of the maqtans mentioned that she grabbed the holy head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and had that conversation with Hussein, because Lady Ruqayyah truly loved her father. And these are beautiful relationships that we see. And then you see Lady Zainab, how she took care of the children of Imam Hussein while their father was not present, and provide that motherly like love for these children. And you see, that day became the day of the nurse, for example, in Iran, because we learned from Lady Zainab how to take care and love and show emotional support to children when in time of need. So Karbala is very deep, and the lessons of Ashura are for everyone. So tonight, inshallah, we'll be giving tips on how we can strengthen this very important structure, the family, and how we can train and raise successful children. Right now, we are in America, a time of complete risk. It's very interesting, the new census that came out in 2025 says now households that are bringing up children that are right now married are the minority. Children right now that have both father and mother, now it's like 47%. They're not the majority anymore. And today, children are being raised mostly without marriage, without father, without mother being present. So if your family is present for you right now, you have to thank Allah in the US, because you are now a minority. So therefore, we have to tackle this issue with all these problems that children are facing today, with social media, with financial difficulties and inflation, worrying about their future, or with AI taking over their jobs. Children need to be brought upright in an era that is changing very fast, in a way that the parents need to give them that support and need to give them that training, we said, before the event. Because children should not be facing, or young individuals, facing and learning about what to do. When event happens, they should have already been trained and taught by parents that when this happens, you do this. Like Imam Hassan alayhi salam had already written that letter for Qasim, that when this happens, I want you to fight for Hussein ibn Ali. I want you to help your uncle. So therefore, we need to plan. We need to have a skill. Many of us as fathers and mothers are caring. We love to have our children become religious. And there's no guarantee about this. But the fact is that we need to learn the skill, how to be a successful parent. Sometimes we do things and we learn. When you have the first child, we just how that child is learning to crawl and walk, that parent is also learning how to be a father. That mother is also learning how to be a mother. Therefore, we understand that this is a skill that our community must have, because the future are with the children. Our intentions are with the imam of the age. The first thing I want to say when we talk about practical tips about how to raise good children is, one, there is no guarantee. We have to do what we are responsible. Prophet Nuh is a great example, and if he did not exist in the Holy Quran, parents would not have an excuse if they had a child that did not listen to them, a child that was not religious. We see the story of Prophet Nuh. He mentions to his son, come and board the ship. Come with me, my son. But here you see, son had knowledge. Son had something that is important. We always try to teach our kids, be smart in school. Or sometimes, this is not something good to be the first in class. But yet we see that the son of Prophet Nuh had a knowledge that others didn't maybe at that time. What type of knowledge did he have? He understood that water will flow down, that gravity will push water down, and there's very little chance that it will rain so much that the top of the mountain will be flooded. What kind of mountain becomes flooded at the top? This is good knowledge. This is something that, he had. But knowledge is a double-sided sword. Sometimes these children, and Prophet Nuh, we say as a father, he did whatever he did was perfect, obviously, because he was a prophet of Allah. It's not as if he neglected him from the beginning, or he gave him a super hard time, or he never taught him. No, this was his own son. And we see this as impossible to say the prophets did not care for their children. No. When they are doing tabligh to those people for 950 years, Prophet Nuh, he's not going to do some tabligh to his own son. Of course he is. He's going to give him a few words. And as we're going to mention, one of the best ways for children to be raised is by looking at father and mother more than listening and getting commands. Looking and learning is better than just listening and commands. And he looked at Prophet Nuh. But we come to this conclusion that knowledge is a double-sided sword. And what happened? The flood actually went all the way to the mountains, and he was flooded and drowned. Quran mentions that he's not of your family anymore. The Prophet Nuh is not of your family. So therefore, sometimes this might happen that God gives us children that we were completely doing what we're supposed to. We will not be punished for that. Allah will not punish us for something that we did not do or cause, because every child has been given free will. They can choose between right and wrong. But what is up to our duty is to allow that child to have the best chance in order to become mu'min, in order to become successful in life. And hopefully, with these tips that we learn from Imam Hussein alayhi salam, tips that we learn from hadith and narrations and some of our experts, hopefully this will increase that. The first thing, when a person wants to establish a family, you have to understand that family is something that is holy in Islam. A family is not something that, is secondary. Masjid is first, friends are first. Masjid is families are one of the primary responsibilities that we have. There's no institution beloved from Allah's eyes than marriage. It's something holy. It's something that Quran mentions, that Allah has placed mawadda and rahmah between the azwaj. Allah has placed this love. God has made this as a sign of Himself in the Holy Quran. So marriage and the family is something that is holy. And one of the enemies of the family is who? Who do you think wants families destroyed the most? Who is attacking husband and wife and child and father and child or mother and child the most? Shaitan. Satan. Why? Because Shaitan is very smart. He's lived for thousands of years. And we said about this. He does exist. He has tricks. So what he is trying to do is make sure that there's fighting happens, divorce happens, child and father, they hate each other. Child and mother hate each other. Why? So that the next generation can be raised in a way that they are susceptible to Shaitan's teachings. Because when you take father out of the picture, mother out of the picture, child now is free to choose whatever path he wants to. And God forbid, this relationship, when this structure is destroyed, we see what happens to families. And they are very susceptible to the teachings of Shaitan. So just how Allah is promoting and saying be good to your spouses, be good to your children. It's be just to your children. If you kiss one of them, kiss the other one, for example. Put Islamic names on them so that child can be dignified and honored. Never put this child down, for example, and we'll mention these. Therefore, you see, Allah is promoting a holy structure. Some of the traditions say, just tonight, I know that there has been a fire in Los Angeles. You cannot look at the sky for probably a few more days. But imagine you're somewhere where you can see the sky and see all the stars. There are narrations that the angels have another view. We are looking at the universe, and the angels are looking at earth. And they are seeing stars. And the stars that they see are those holy families, those wholesome families, righteous families that recite Quran, they're worshiping Allah. They are like the kawakib, they are like the stars, they are like the planets, and the angels look at these homes. So our goal is to produce, hopefully, such a family, and not saying we can produce like the family of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but we are trying to do as fathers, as mothers, as those who are planning to be parents, we're trying to our best to establish a holy household, a holy environment, so that these children can be produced, inshallah, these children can come from. So the first thing that I need to do, and maybe some here are not married, maybe here there are some who have maybe grandchildren, or they can give this advice to their own children. When somebody wants to get married, when somebody wants to have children, they ask themselves this important question: why do I want to have children? Why do I want to get married? The best intention and most complete intention that I see is that I want to produce children. I want to have a family for Allah, so that these children can become companions and helpers of the Imam of the age. This is what we learn. Just like if you were during the time of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and you live during his time, wouldn't you want to have a child to be born to help Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Wasn't that what Imam Ali alayhi salam did when he went to choose a spouse for himself? What did he look for, Imam Ali alayhi salam? He worked backwards. A lot of times we look, God forbid, we get into relationships, we get into attachments, and then from then on I say, okay, this is good for me, but then I don't realize, wait a minute, what about that family that is coming from this wife, or family that's going to come from the husband? Sometimes they ask me what to do. I married someone that was not Muslim, and now this child is not going to be religious. Well, that child will be confused. When they have a different religion, that mother will try to take him to church on Sundays. You'll try to take him to Jum'ah, for example, on Fridays. That child doesn't know what to do anymore. It gets confused. So therefore, work in the way that Imam Ali alayhi salam worked. First, he saw what traits would produce someone like Hazrat Abbas. What is Hazrat Abbas known for? His bravery, his loyalty. So he went and saw from this tribe what is the most courageous tribe. And he found someone that today we call Ummul Baneen. Someone, when Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam was martyred, this is the qualities and characteristics of the wife that Imam Ali alayhi salam chose to produce such a child like Hazrat Abbas. They mentioned to her, the Naghi mentioned that your son has been killed. She says, what about Hussein ibn Ali? He says, I said to you, all of your sons have been killed. All 4 sons. Sometimes we don't mention the other sons of Imam Ali alayhi salam, the brothers of Hazrat Abbas. These beautiful individuals, 4 of these greats, at least around that number, 4 great individuals that were shaheed. She says, may the entire world be satisfied for Hussein ibn Ali. You have heard me when she heard that Hussein ibn Ali was shaheed. This for her was more important than the martyrdom of her own Hazrat Abbas and her own children. So therefore, we see the first thing when it comes to, and this isn't part of those 5 tips, the first thing is intention. Why am I getting married? Why do I want to start this family? Is it because of attachment? Now, I'm not saying that person you choose, you should not love. Obviously, you should love them. You should, be able to deal with them. You should be able to, cope with them and get along with them. But what I am trying to say is make your intention and raise your level of ma'rifat. Say, I want to have a child. I want to start a family. For you, Allah, I'm doing this to make an Abdullah, a servant of Allah, or servant of Allah, one who will fight for the Imam of the age, one who will produce and help. Maybe one of my friends said this. He said that he looked at himself. He said, I cannot be a soldier of Imam Zaman. I want to at least help raise children that will be soldiers of the Imam of the age. So the first thing is intention. And that intention goes a long ways. The rest, Allah will help you. So do not have any type of material, intention when it comes to starting a family. Do not have anything just for yourself, selfish reasons. One that is completely ilahi. Yes, again, love is part of it. Completion of religion is part of it. Fulfilling one's needs is part of it. But the most important thing is sincerely say that I want to have children that will be soldiers of the Imam of the age, inshallah. Let's recite Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa Jafar. So what are these 5 tips? So many advice you can say, and again, we said there's no guarantee even when a person does these. But the first tip, and these are maybe I can start with younger individuals first, is that these children, they need to be, when you send them off to school, when you send them and you demand a lot of times them to excel in school, excel in sports. First thing is, which is very, I got this from one of the scholars that is a specialist in raising children in Iran, and he has schools actually about how to do tarbiyat. The first thing he says is this, is that you should be careful of their nutrition, and I'm going to add, and their rest. When the Prophet wanted to invite his family members to accept prophethood, he first fed them, he says. First he gave them food. In the Ashira Muqarrabin, he brought his family members. After they were fed, then he announced the message to them. They were not hungry. They were not starving, for example. He fed them first. And then they had food. And then, then they could think clearly. That child, sometimes we're not careful. You send them to school without a proper breakfast. They sleep late at night. Now we understand the Muharram is during the summertime. This is an exception. But you send them to school without any plan or program from themselves, disorganized. And you expect all this performance from the poor child. Didn't you see recently in the World Cup, they keep saying teams need to rest. Teams need to be in a, at least in the U.S., what they didn't do to the Iranian team, they made them go all the way back to Tijuana. But they need to be well rested. They need to be, they need to concentrate and be relaxed before the game. Children are actually individuals that, very importantly, nutrition is important for them. And the way that they behave, the way they think, sometimes they are very feisty. You see, friends, sometimes, just like us, when our lunch is delayed a little bit, we want to, strangle each other sometimes. Children are worse. They have little small stomachs. So make sure their snacks, the nutrition, the rest is good. Then you see at school to perform much better. You see that when they're at home, they'll be much more calmer. But when you give them lots of junk, for example, to eat, a lot of nutrition that isn't, or things that don't have much nutrition, or not fed at all, or starving when they go to school, you see lack of performance. So what did the Prophet do? The Prophet first gave people food, and then he had this. And when sometimes we have majalis, and I like it, sometimes we have it before. And in our traditions, usually we have to have it afterwards. And it's as if, as a joke, they say like, I cried this much for Imam Hussein, you give him this much tea, for example. They deserve, much more. But one of the ways that the prophets and imams had is that, you see from this example, is the food first. And then now that everyone is fed, now cry for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The second way that I want to say, and I don't want to take too much of your time, is that tips about how to raise children. The second is that children need to be respected when we have communication with them. Imam Hadi alayhi salam mentions in hadith, "Man hanat alayhi nafsuhu fala ta'man sharra." Whoever has lost respect for himself, do not feel secure from his harmful conduct. So if a person loses their self-respect, sometimes you get frustrated. I'm a father myself. I know how it is. You want your child to be the best. You want your child to be perfect. You put too much pressure on them. And I've been teaching in some Sunday schools and other Islamic schools. I've been teaching. And I see a lot of times what those children complain about is the amount of pressure parents put on them. As if they have to excel in everything. Actually, as parents, you should see what they're good at and let them excel in those things they're good at. It's impossible for someone to be good at everything, right? You cannot do that. Why do you expect that from the child? So what happens is, oh, you're not good at this math, you're not good at this subject, you're not good at this. You bring him down, you bring him down, you insult them, insult them, insult them. And then the child after a while says, oh, maybe I'm not smart. Or child says, maybe I'm not a good person. Or maybe, you bring them down. But we should be doing the opposite. When we have effective, good communication with our children, you speak to them. So Imam Hadi alayhi salam taught this 1400 years ago, that if a person has been insulted, that person has that ability to harm other individuals. It's interesting that, unfortunately, I don't like really talking about these topics too much, but just about the self-confidence of your children, always speak high to your children, give them beautiful names, and promote them, allow them to be, individuals that they feel they're from a good family, good lineage. When they are raised this way, not with arrogance, but with self-confidence, the chance that someone can harm them is much less. Very sorry to say this. Those who abuse children, and they went through, what they're the victims that they chose. They said usually those children that had very low self-confidence, usually those children that we say today were insulted and brought down, usually that child will give in to that, type of, crime that is, or that abuse that is against them. But that child that is from a good family that hasn't been brought down, there's less chance that they will give in and submit to that abuse. So therefore, the second is that communication you have with your child. Have good communication. Not always, we get it with a lot of times Muslim parents, they're always bringing so much pressure. Their deen has to be this, the Quran has to be this, all their studies have to be this. Now, I'm not saying not to give them a program. Sometimes we have the opposite, is that yes, you're less, you can just do whatever you do, you can run around and do whatever you do. No, you have to have a good balance, give them a program, but I'm talking about that way, a method of communicating with them. That there's a way for me, just as you, if you look at the way that Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they communicated to an old man about wudu. They could have said they saw this person do wudu, in the books it says, they could have said, hey, what are you doing? You're so old, you still don't know how to do wudu, and make fun of him, for example. You'll never learn. You're going to go straight to hell, for example. Or they said, which way of Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, which one of us is performing wudu correctly? And they perform the wudu in front of him and says, explain to us which one is correct, for example. And the old man says, no, your wudu is right. My wudu is wrong. So not directly insulting. There's many ways, even as a family here or as a community here, there's many ways, especially those who volunteer and those who take this task to help the Imam Hussein alayhi salam's majalis, a way to communicate to individuals, a way to teach someone without harming them, without hurting them. Because when a person gets insulted, you really don't really want to learn anymore. So the same way with children, the second is effective communication. Speak to them in a friendly manner. 3, emotional connection with children. We see that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, how much you see Lady Ruqayya cried for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And when these children of Imam Hussein, he loved them so much. We'll talk about Ali Akbar. Some considered the shahadat of Ali Akbar as they call it the jihad Akbar of Imam Hussein, the hardest jihad of Imam Hussein. Or you see when Ali Asghar has been martyred, Imam Hussein comes munkasiran, hazina, and he's in with grief. Because Imam Hussein loved children. He loved Hazrat Ali Akbar, which tonight we'll talk about. He loved his family. He loved Hazrat Sakina or Hazrat Ruqayya. Giving this amount of love to children goes a long ways. And now sometimes you say, well, everyone loves their children. Yeah, but the way you express it, the way you show it, the way you encourage them, this is much different. And you see the Holy Quran, it talks about وَقَالَ رَبِّي irhamuha kama rabbiyani saghira. He said, oh Allah, the Quran says, my Lord, have mercy upon them as they raised me when I was small. Just how they cared for me. So that child, show them that care, that sacrifice you're doing for them. And therefore, when you do this, they'll see, and the Quran mentions, then they will make dua for you. So the third step is that emotional connection to children. And this is very keen. Sometimes we have a relationship with our children, just commanding them, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. Or sometimes we become friends with them. Sometimes we, take them wherever we go. And they connect with us. They just learn from us. Didn't we say this? The children will learn from seeing more than what they're being told. They need to watch you as parents. You need to be the good role model. And you need to connect with them and be their friend so they enjoy spending time with you. You need to make that sacrifice that not only always hanging out with brothers and sisters hanging out with sisters, have your children become your friends. Yes, you should still have limits. When it comes to your children, they should still understand you're the father. But have fun with them. Go out and see what they like to do. Spend time with them. A lot of times we have, camping trips that we just had one at, Yasin with, a lot of the young. And sometimes, you can have with, in Kirama camp, for example, some of you attended. So it was a family camp. You bring your family along, your child along. You have fun together. That child, once he's your friend, he will start following you because he likes you, because he loves you. He wants to be like you. You don't even need to tell him these things anymore once you become their friend. So therefore, we don't want to take too much of your time, but the other advice is showing your love to them, that connection you have with them. Fourth is choosing good friends and environment. One of the factors that builds someone greatly is environment. You are responsible for that environment of your child. Unfortunately, a lot of times we see parents just give their phones, and phones can have anything. It's not, they don't even know how to, for example, use screen time, or they don't know how to limit websites. They just give them this phone, and the child can go to whatever websites they want to. So it's very important. Or we see recently in the UK or in Europe, they're banning social media under 16. What does this phone cause? Social media causes depression. It causes them, anxiety. So you have to develop a wholesome, good environment at home with technology, with in this digital era, to make sure there's a limit on how much screen time they have, how much time they enjoy the outdoors, they enjoy sports, they have good conversations with their kids, with the family. Don't allow the screen time. Yes, it's very easy for me as a parent just to say, oh, I want to do something else myself. Here you go. Just take the iPad, and do whatever you want. Now I'm free. I'm not saying to completely remove it, because there's many different good channels that educate children as well. They can learn as well. But you have to be careful of that environment, that digital environment. You have to be careful of that environment of schools that they go to. Islamic schooling, we had a recent, big event that with, Kisa Foundation, that we're talking about some of the big issues with Islamic schooling. And one of the brothers that's a principal in a public school was saying one of the main issues with Islamic schooling is funding, is money. Well, parents, if you can afford it, and hopefully most schools are like this, they will allow you, if you cannot afford it, to get a discount if you can. So you have to sacrifice for these children. If you cannot, public schooling is going to be free. Public schooling might have a vast and great, area to play because it's public schooling. But that environment that you're talking about, children, especially say someone has daughters, it's going to be hard this day and age for them. I'm not saying everyone that goes to a public school is going to be bad. I went to public school myself because there wasn't Islamic schools during that time at my level. Or maybe you don't want them to become like me. Maybe I'm a good example of this. But children can go to public schools and become good as well. But you're responsible for that environment. Don't come and say many years later, why was it that they're being bullied? One of the biggest issues today in schools, time and time again, they tell us or others, is children being bullied. Children, and I remember myself going to public school. It's hard, the name that you have, trying to fit in. What is going on in the world right now? That child, it's hard for them to stand up against 20, 30 people when everyone's like, you're from this country, you're from that country, what's going on? They make jokes. So when you add at a young age, children need that good environment, that self-confidence. And when they go to Islamic school, about Palestine, everyone is on the same page. About war against Iran, everyone is on the same page. Or about hijab, everyone is about the same page. They learn salat, they do salat dhuhr and asr in school, they recite Holy Quran. Yes, in some issues, it might be different, it might be difficult for you. One, you have to pay for it, obviously. It's not free. right? In most of these schools, they're not here to make money. Islamic schools usually are in a deficit. 2, you have to drive, and it's worth it. I myself, I drive a lot. For my own children, I had to drive either in Iran or when I was here, I had to drive a lot, but it was worth it. 3, sometimes, that level of academic level that you want, it might not be there, right? So you can supplement, or you can have, hopefully you'll find good Islamic schools that have excel. In some aspect, they do excel because the teacher to student ratio is going to be much less compared to public schools, like 30 for each class, or 35 for each class. But these are issues that you have to sacrifice and see what is more important for me, the deen. So I have to tolerate a lot of things that I see at school, but help them out. If you see issues and you can help out with these Islamic schools, they are your own schools, you can help them out. So therefore, that environment that I provide for my kids, that also is going to be good. One note here, do not think that now I put my kid to Islamic school, my tarbiyat, my responsibilities are done. No. Every child will make as much as they can themselves from and benefit from that school as much as they can. If they are not working and trying, they're not going to be benefiting too much from an Islamic school. So parents also have to reinforce and support the education of their children. So the 4th is choosing good friends and the environment of a school. Who are your kids friends with? I myself, when I was growing up in public school and growing up with friends, one of the biggest things that changed me when I was young and I'm seeking religion was changing my circle of friends. Who did I hang out with? I completely removed those friends that I had in public school and made good Muslim friends, Shia friends, from masjid and centers. So friendship is something very important. Bringing your kids to masjid all the time means they develop friendship with one another. But if you are separate from masjid, separate from Islamic schools, separate from weekend schools, then how is your kid going to have good friends? They need to have friends. And I'm saying not that, one who is not Muslim is bad, but for example, one who is not religious is bad. No, some of them have very good characteristics. But for that child not to be confused, for that child to understand and have a strong Muslim identity, friendship is very important. A lot of times, even ourselves, when you look at it, we do not choose friends. We just allow whoever comes and has a conversation with me, they become my friend. But the hadith talk about even testing your friends as adults, testing your own friends. Or the hadith say, your brother in Islam or your sister in Islam is as if they're born from the same father and mother for you. They're generally as if they're like your biological brother and sister. Or you see, when you have a friend, the hadith says, do khidmah in service of them. So you cannot do khidmah in service to everyone. You have to be selective when it comes with your own friends, and you have to be selective when it comes to your children's friends. But how do I get good friends for my kids? They have to be in good environments where those good kids are, those good religious kids are. And therefore, you see, sometimes they'll be friends with one mu'min child that will encourage them reciting Quran and learning Quran. It'll be very beneficial. We're running out of time. The last thing that I'd like to say is helping children manage and release their emotions. Again, this is some of the tips that I learned from one of the specialists that's in Qom about raising children. He's saying helping children manage and release their emotion. And these are children that are growing up, teaching them that being mad and angry is okay, but controlling it is more important. Everyone gets mad, everyone gets agitated, everyone gets down a little bit. But how do I manage and regulate emotions? Parents have to talk about some of the anxiety that their children might be facing. For example, adolescents, they might begin to worry about their future. Children might worry about their education, what is going to. You have to talk about these things with them. Their employment, their marriage, their identity. So therefore, parents should engage in meaningful discussions with them rather than dismissing their concerns. You talk to them and you talk about how to manage and release their emotions. A lot of times they will watch you if you become angry, and this is natural. You cannot hide your anger at home, but they see, what do I do when I am angry? Do I not say anything? Am I patient? Do I go to the other room? Or sometimes if I do get angry, I make a mistake, I am quick to say, I'm sorry, this was wrong. So therefore, teaching them how to manage and release their emotions. These are 5 tips. Hopefully we make dua that our children, inshallah, are all from the followers of Ahlul Bayt, alayhi salam, lovers of the Prophet, and soldiers of the Imam of the age. If we can dim the lights, we can now, inshallah, talk about one of the greatest individuals who was shaheed in the plains of Karbala, which is Ali Akbar. Please recite another salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A person came and said and wanted to have majlis, and he was hosting Rosa for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Sometimes they have favors. They said that I want you to do the Rosa of Imam Hussein. I explain to the people so they can cry how Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam was killed. So the scholar went on the minbar, the reciter went on the minbar, and did the maqtal of Hazrat Ali Akbar. The next day he went and said, look, scholar, I told you, please, I have an intention, I have a niyat maybe. Recite how Imam Hussein was killed. Second night again, he recited Ali Akbar of Imam Hussein. And then the third night, again he said to him, recite how Imam Hussein is being killed. Again he recited Ali Akbar. Then he explained to him and says, didn't you listen to me? I said, explain how Imam Hussein alayhi salam has been killed. He says, you do not understand. The scholar said, you do not understand. I told you how Imam Hussein alayhi salam has been killed. When Ali Akbar of Imam Hussein was killed, Imam Hussein was killed. Because this is what happens when a father raises the most similar person to the Prophet, speaking and walking and behavior. And as a father, maybe you could say the musibat of Hazrat Ali Akbar is different than other musibats, because the other musibats, their children, which is in its way, has its own bitterness. But when that child grows up and becomes 18 and 19, that is the age of Kamal. That is the age of complete development. And you see what they do to this beautiful son that you raised. This is what kills you. This is the jihad, the akbar of Imam Hussein. Some of our scholars even say, when you go to Karbala, inshallah you go soon, says, do not mention the Rosa of Imam Hussein, of Hazrat Ali Akbar in front of Imam Hussein. Do not mention the Rosa and Maqtal of Hazrat Ali Akbar in front of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So the narrator says, it is the day of Ashura. Imam Hussein alayhi salam is there and says, each man of Imam Hussein's followers continued to go forward and be killed until there only remained with Hussein ibn Ali the members of his own household. Why were the Bani Hashim last to be killed? Because the Ashab would say, as long as we are alive, we won't allow the family of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to go to the battlefield. They were loyal. So it says that the Maqtal says, until they saw Ali ibn al-Hussein, peace be upon them, whose mother was Layla, daughter of Abu Murrah, he was the next to advance. وَكَانَ مِنْ أَسْبَحَ النَّاسِ وَجْهًا, he was the most handsome of men of the time. Wajhan, his face, his beauty. وَلَهُ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِضْعَ عَشَرَ سَنَةٍ, and he was about 19 years old, translated as around 19 years of age. فَشَدَّ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَهُوَ يَقُولُ, and he went in front of the people and would say this rajas, أَنَا عَلِي ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali, I am Ali ibn al-Husayn. نَحْنُ وَبَيْتِ اللَّهِ أَوْلَى بِالنَّبِي, we are the one that are the closest to the Prophet, have the most right. تَاللَّهِ لَا يَحْكُمُ فِينَا ibn da'i, and no son of haram will be able to judge us. أَضْرَبُ بِالسَّيْفِ أُحَامِي عَنْ أَبِي, I will strike with the sword in defense of my father. فَضَرَبَ غُلَامَ هَاشَمِيٍّ قُرَيشِي, I will strike with the blow of Hashemi Qurayshi. Imam Hussein alayhi salam saw his son Ali Akbar. And I want you to understand how Ali Akbar left Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the tears that Imam Hussein alayhi salam had. The thirst that Hazrat Ali Akbar had, and some say here, he went and fought very bravely and came back, and he was thirsty. He says, "Oh Father, the thirst is killing me." So here Imam Hussein, it is an emergency. They say that he went to give him some moisture, some hydration. He placed his tongue on the place of Ali Akbar. He was his father. Here Ali Akbar saw that the tongue of Imam Hussein alayhi salam was even more dry than his tongue, because there were a few individuals that had no water absolutely. One of them was Imam Hussein, Hazrat Abbas, Lady Zainab. Hazrat Ali Akbar continues to fight very bravely. But here the Maqtal says here that they came forward. Then Murra ibn Munqidh al-Abdi saw him. He said, the felonies of the Arabs come to me if he gets past me doing this. So he continued, Ali ibn Hussein continued to attack. And then Murra ibn Munqidh came forward and stabbed Ali Akbar. Here some say that the horse of Hazrat Ali Akbar, instead of going back to the tent of Imam Hussein and the companion and the family of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, here the horse went the wrong way, and the horse went towards the enemy of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Now I want you to understand, these enemies, that some of them were Shami, some of them were Kufan, how much hatred they had for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, how much hatred that they have of Imam Ali alayhi salam. They said his name is Ali, he is the grandson of Ali. So whatever hatred they had of Ali ibn Abi Talib, they began to strike Hazrat Ali Akbar while he was down on the ground. There some say that Lady Zainab, I want you to imagine, some of you ladies, you have chador, how difficult it is to run with the abaya. How is Lady Zainab alayhi salam going to be able to run from the enemies, from the army of Kufa, from the army of Sham? How many times must have Lady Zainab fell on the ground and gotten up, fallen on the ground and gotten up in order to console Imam Hussein alayhi salam? But by the time they got there, it says that Faja al-Hussein hatta waqafa alayhi. Imam Hussein was there. They see that Ali Akbar alayhi salam is cut into irba, into different parts, in different pieces. There Imam Hussein says the statement, ثُمَّ قَالَ عَلَى الدُّنْيَا بَعْدَكَ الْأَفَى. With tears filling his eyes, Imam Hussein says, may there be dust on the world after you, Ali Akbar. Lady Zainab then says, Ya Ukhayya, my brother, Wabna Ukhayya, my brother and my nephew. She came and threw herself on the butchered body of Ali Akbar. Imam Hussein then says to the Bani Hashim, فَأَخَذَ الْحُسَيْنِ بِرَاسِهِ فَرَدَّ إِلَى الْقُسْطَاطِ. Imam Hussein says, Lady Zainab, go back to the tents. Then he says, فَقَالَ احْمِلُوا أَخَاكُمْ Bani Hashim, come and take your brother Ali Akbar back to the tents. Some of our ulama here say this is proof that Ali Akbar was the one who was cut into pieces. Why? Because here he says to Bani Hashim, فَقَالُوا احْمَلُوا أَخَاكُمْ, you together, everyone come to help to take the body parts of Ali Akbar back to the tent. And this was the jihad, the Akbar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Inna lillah, inna ilayhi raji'un. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah.
آماده شو حسین ساعت آخره آماده شو حسین ساعت آخره ببین که موقع جهاد اکبره جهاد اکبرت این دل بریدنه دار و ندار تو قربونی کردنه فلما لم يبق معه سوا اهل بیته وقتی همه اصحاب شهید شدن جز اهل بیتش هیچکی براش نمون خرج علی ابن الحسین علیه السلام علی اکبر بیرون آمد و کان من اسبح الناس وجها و احسنهم خلقا بهترین مردم زیباترین مردم بود فاستأذن اباه فی القتال فاذن له تا اجازه میدان خواست آقا اجازه داد معطل نکرد فرمود تنفقوا مما تحبون بهترین گوهر شابی عبدالله بی معطلی به سمت میدان روانه کرد اما امام حسین یک کاری کرد ثم نظر الیه نظرتن آیس من یه نگاه از روی ناامیدی به قد و بالای علی کرد و ارخا علیه السلام عینی چشاشو زیر انداخت و بکا شروع کرد های های گریه کردن یه وقت ابی عبدالله سر به آسمان بلند کرد اللهم اشهد فقط برز الیهم غلام اشبه الناس خلقا و خلقا و منطقا برسولک صلی الله علیه و آله خدایا شاهد باش دارم شبیه ترین مردم رو خلقا و خلقا و منطقا بر پیغمبرت به سمت این مردم میفرستم یه جمله دیگه هم فرمود خیلی جان سوزه اگه دقت کنید من و تو بفهمیم و کنا از اشتقنا الی نبی که نظرنا الی هنوز زین العابدین هست امام افضل همه میدونن اما علی اکبر چنان دلبری کرد از حسین ابی عبدالله فرمود خدایا ما هر وقت دلمون برای جدمون پیغمبر تنگ میشد به علیمون نگاه میکردیم بعد شروع کرد نفرین کردن صدا زد یبن صدقت الله رحمک خدا رحم تو قطع کنه کما قطعت رحمی داری این نسل منو برمیداری اینجا زنها بی بیا اومدن دارن تماشا میکنن. ابی عبدالله فرمود علی جان برو تو خیمه، خواهراتم ببر داخل، امهاتم ببر داخل، با اینا بر آخرین بار وداع کن. حالا علی اومده داخل خیمه، این زن و بچه دورشو گرفتن، خیلی جان سوزه. هر کسی داره یه چیزی میگه، همه میدونن این وداع آخره. یه کودکی میاد صداش میزنه علی، داداش علی نگاه کن، دیدی گوشوارم و بابا حسینم منزل قبل برام خریده، گوشوارشو داره نشون علی میده. یکی میگه علی جان پیراهن نوامو دیدی یا نه؟ همه میخوان معطلش کنن دیرتر بره سمت میدان. اما یه مرتبه دید یه بچه کوچولویی، خانوم رقیه 3 ساله ابی عبدالله، داره پایین لباس علی رو میکشه. داداش علی جانم عزیزم، علی میشه منو بغلم کنی داداش؟ آره عزیزم. نشست رو زانو، رقیه خانم و بغل گرفت، نزدیک در اومد. رقیه در گوش علی گفت علی جان داداش میخوای بری، ارحم غربتنا، داداش به غربت ما رحم کن. حالا ابی عبدالله اومد فرمود علی رو رها کنید، علی دیگه اینجا موندنی نیست، باید بره. حالا ببین علی اکبر چی میگه. یا ابا افعل ما تؤمر، بابا تشنگیامو نبین، ستجدنی من الصابرین. با من هم ناله میشی یا نه؟ آه از وداع تو علی سخته، نبینم روی ماهت رو علی. آه از وداع تو علی سخته، نبینم روی ماهت رو علی. حالا علی رفت سمت میدان، رجز خون پیر مردای لشگر دیدن علی وارد میدان شد. اینا پیغمبر رو دیده بودن. یه مرتبه گفتن انگار پیغمبر زنده شده و برگشته، داره به پسرش کمک میکنه. ما با پیغمبر نمی جنگیم تا علی اکبر شروع به رجز خواندن کرد. انا علی ابن الحسین ابن علی ابن ابی طالب. گفتن علی اومده، همه علی دوستام اومدن، غوغا شد، نمیگم چی شد، اما کار به جایی رسید. ابی عبدالله مقابل خیمه دیدن، هی رو زمین میشینه پا میشه، دوباره رو زمین میشینه بلند میشه. زینب سوال کرد داداش چه خبر شده؟ گفت زینبم علیمو کشتن. همه صدا بزنید یا حسین یا حسین.
یا حسین 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 ماه از آمد از راه از راه، ماه از آمد از راه، با پرچم سرخ یا سار الله، با پرچم سرخ. ماه از آمد از راه از راه، ماه از آمد با پرچم سرخ یا سار الله، با پرچم سرخ. ما با همین پرچم روز محشر دور تو میگردیم انشاءالله. ما با همین پرچم روز محشر دور تو میگردیم انشاءالله. ای سالار همه شهیدان، ای سالار همه روحی لک فدا حسین جان، روحی لک. ای سر مستور نوران علا نور، ای سر مستور نوران. شش گوشت را میبوسم از دور، شش گوشت را. ای سر مستور نوران علا نور، ای سر مستور. شش گوشت را میبوسم از دور، شش گوشت را. مولا حسین جان، حسین 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 حسین. ای ماه تابانم، یاسین قرآنم، خیمه پریشان شد گیسو پریشانم. ای ماه تابانم، یاسین قرآنم، خیمه پریشان شد گیسو پریشانم. خرامان خرامان میروی سوی میدان، علی جان علی جان میبری از حرم جان. علی جان میبری از حرم جان 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 بابا علی جان جان محلا گل لیلا گل زهرا گل بابا محلا گل لیلا زهرا سرو سپیدارم یار علم دارم رفتی نشد بابام چشم از تو بردارم سرو سپیدارم یار علم دارم رفتی نشد بابام چشم از تو بردارم سوار رشیدم از پی تو دویدم امیدم از تو من دل بریدم امیدم از تو من دل بریدم جان 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 بابا علی جان جان محلا گل لیلا گل زهرا گل بابا محلا گل لیلا گل زهرا گل بابا محلا چون حسین بن علی بی کس و بی آور شد گاه جانبازی شهزاده علی اکبر شد چون حسین بن علی بی کس و بی آور شد گاه جانبازی شهزاده علی اکبر شد می رود شبه نبی می رود شبه نبی بدرقش آفغان زین فغان کرب و بلا یک سر چون محشر شد زین فغان کرب و بلا یک سر چون محشر شد در حریم قدمش در حریم قدمش خط 200 چشم غمین همراهش قافله سینه پر آدر شد همراهش قافله سینه پر آدر شد گویا قلب حسین است که ز آن سوی رود گویا قلب حسین است که ز آن سوی رود دم به دم پار امیدش ز گل احمر شد دم به دم پار امیدش ز گل احمر شد می کند باز از هم غنچه لب خون خدا می کند باز از هم غنچه لب خون خدا عنبر افشان همه جا از لب آن سرور شد عنبر افشان همه جا از لب آن سرور شد که این خدایا برهت گشت فدا جان حسین از من این لحظه جدا اکبر مه پیکر شد از من این لحظه جدا اکبر مه پیکر شد من چو دل برگیرم من چو دل برگیرم از همه دل برگیرم چون تویی دلبر من پر پر شد چون تویی دلبر من پر رفت با قامت خود و که قیامت بنمود بر سرش تیر و سنان رقص 200 خنجر شد همه گشته به پا بین جمیع دونان که چسان نوبت جان بازی پیغمبر شد جنگ می کرد چنان قاتل مرهم آن دم جلوه گر پیش خسان زان عظمت حیدر شد ذکر لا حول ولا قوت الا بالله ذکر لا حول ولا بر زبان همه اهل حرم از بر شد بر زبان همه اهل حرم از بر شد تشنگی تا بتوان از تن اکبر می برد نم نموتش لبه جرعی از کوثر شد نم نموتش لبه جرعی از کوثر شد قدسیان موی کنان عرض و سما خون افشان قدسیان موی کنان عرض و سما خون افشان شیون و همه در بارگه داور شد شیون و همه در بارگه داور شد منکسر شمس و قمر کون و مکان زیر و زبر منکسر شمس و قمر کون و مکان زیر و زبر دامن سربر دین بحر پر از گوهر شد دامن سربر دین بحر پر از گوهر شد زمزم چشم حسین علی شد گرداب زمزم چشم حسین علی شد گرداب شعله بر آه دل زینب غم پرور شد شعله بر آه دل زینب غم پرور شد کهکشان قامت اکبر چو بیفتاد به خاک، کهکشان قامت اکبر چو بیفتاد به خاک. زنده مولایم زنده مولایم زنده مولایم جان جهان آخر شد. زنده مولایم جان جهان آخر شد. بعد 100 سال و اگر بعد 100 سال و اگر از سر غمرم گذری، من کفن پاره کنم زندگی از سر گیرم. من کفن پاره کنم زندگی سر گیرم. برم شامم میرسه برم شامم میرسه برم شامم میرسه. هر لحظه بوی کربلا هر دلم ترسم به ما آرزوی کربلا. هر دلم ترسم به ما آرزوم کربلا. تشنه آب فرات تشنه آب فرات تشنه آب فرات. ای اجل مهلت بده تا بگیر در بغل قبر شهید کربلا. در بغل قبر شهید کربلا فریاد بزن ای حسین. به وقار و شکوه برون آمد ز حرم. به وقار و شکوه برون آمد ز حرم. چه می شود که سرم زیر پایش ببرم، چشمم بر بانی کرم. باز روی نبی شد پیدا با دعای خیر لیلا. باز روی نبی شد پیدا با دعای خیر لیلا. با تیغ حیدر به دل لشگر با دم یا زهرا علیم از آن گوی حرم. توان و بازوی حسین سلامت مرتضوی تمام نیرو حسین. یا علی تو علی اکبریم یا خود حیدری علی علی. یا علی اکبریم یا خود حیدری علی علی. حسین 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 وای حسین حسین وای. پور لیلا لیلی دل ربای دلها. پور لیلا لیلی دل ربای دلها. زنده کردم هیبتم روی مصطفی را، سالتم تیغ مرتضی را، ما تو مبهوت خود نمودم کربلا را. در پیش تشنه میدود شاه تشنه کامان، از پی آهوی خرامان، از پی آهوی خرامان. در کفش ذوالفقار برام، پای او در رکاب دلهای بیقرارم. پشت سرها نوای تکبیر، بین لشگر تنین فتاده، بین لشگر تنین فتاده. آمده در میان لشگر یا پیامبر یا جوانی روی حیدر، روی ابرو گره فتاده، بر جبین آیه های داور، برق چشمان پر فروغش به سان پروین و ماه اخضر. سایه سرو و قند و بالاش تا بلندای صبح محشر، در نگاهش تموجی از نگاه مادر. زد به قلب سپاه کافر، شد بلند از میان هر کس که دیده بود از قدیم الایام. آذرخش هجوم حیدر به قلب خیبر، آذرخش هجوم حیدر به قلب. آفرین بر چنین دلاور، رعد و برق صدای تکبیر دانش آموز، دنگ سقا شور محشر، شور محشر به قلب لشگر زده است. رمید آهوی حسین، دمید روح علوی میان اردو. حسین یا علی تو علی اکبری، یا خود حیدری علی علی یا حسین 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 وای. دلم به عشق یارم گرفته حال و هواییم، دلم به عشق یارم گرفته حال و هواییم. نوشته روی قلبم به خط
گریم باعث خندیدن یک لشکر شد. گریم باعث خندیدن یک لشکر شد. علی جان پسرش را عمر سعد نشانم میداد، تنهایش به خمیده شدنم منجر شد. بغلت کردم و یک بار تنت ریخ زمین، چشم بر هم نزده دشت پر از اکبر شد. علی 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 تکه های بدنت را که مرتب شیدم، تازه دیدم بدنت شکل علی اصغر شد. زخم پهلو چقدر زود زمین گیرت کرد، از چنین زخم بدی مادر من پرپر شد. علی جان امد آمده تا دست به مجر ببرد، اربن اربا شده برخیز و ببین محشر شد. علی جان پاشو داشت لشکر دشمن داره به من میخنده، بالای سرت هزار غم میبینم، از خنده کوفیان ستم میبینم. بابا این پیکر توست یا خطای دیده است؟ این پیکر توست یا خطای دیده است؟ انگار تو را زیاد و کم میبینم. یه بیت دیگه داداش عباسم، زحمتی دارم ابوالفضلم، زحمتی دارم ابوالفضلم، بیا با من بگرد. من که خیلی گشتم اما بیش از این پیدا نشد. این که برگشت دارم بین ابا بخت من است، در میان یک ابا بخت بلندم. جان شد خواست جسمت را بگیرد در بغلم، ما نشد. آخرشم پیکر تو در عبایش جانشون. یه مرتبه دیدن نبی عبدالله صدا زد یا فتیان بنی هاشم احملوا اخاکم، جوانان بنی هاشم بیایید، همه جوانان بنی هاشم بیایید. علی نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم استجب دعواتنا يا الله 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 يا الله. اللهم عجل وليك الفرج، اللهم عجل وليك الفرج، اللهم عجل وليك الفرج. خدایا امام زمان ما برسان، باقی مانده غیبتش را به دردهای دل مادر سادات زینب سلام الله علیها به ما ببخش. خدایا ما را ببخش و بیامرز، پدر و مادر ما ببخش و بیامرز، در ما و نسل ما دشمن آل الله قرار مده، ما رو در دنیا و آخرت آبرومند قرار بفرما. دعاهای امام زمان در حق همه ما به اجابت برسان. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. الهی عظم البلا و برها الخفا و انکشف الغطا و انقطع الرجا و ضاقت الارض و منعت السماء و انت المستعان و الیک المشتکا و الیک المعول فی الشدة و الرخا. صلی الله علی محمد و آل للامر الذین فرضت علینا وعرفتنا بذلك منزلتهم ففرج عنا بحقهم فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمه البصر او هو اقرب يا محمد يا علي اكفياني فإنكما كافيان وانصراني فإنكما يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان الغاث الغاث. أدركني أدركني أدركنا الساعة 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 الأجل 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 برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وبحق محمد وآله الطاهرين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام ولك السلام وإليك يعود السلام. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على علي أمير المؤمنين. السلام على فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة أجمعين. السلام على علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام على محمد بن علي باقر علم الأولين والآخرين. السلام على جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام على موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام على علي بن موسى الرضا أيها الغريب ويا غوث هذه الأمة وغياثها. السلام على محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام على علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام على الحسن بن علي الزكي العسكري. السلام على الحجة بن الحسن القائم المهدي. أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف واجعلنا من خير أعوانه وأنصاره وأتباعه وشيعته، واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه. وأرني في آل محمد عليه وعليهم السلام ما يأملون وفي عدوهم ما يحذرون. إله الحق آمين رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين تواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.